There's another game that I really like, and it's The Lost Expedition by Sylvester. I really like this designer. In fact, there's another game of his I'll talk about at another time. What the heck is that? It's called, here, The King is Dead. This is great. I'll talk about this another time. For now, I want to talk to you a little bit about The Lost Expedition. This is a game that you can play solo. I love it solo. You can play cooperatively, and you can even play head-to-head. Now, I've never played this game head-to-head. I have played it cooperatively, and I have played it solo, and it is wonderful. Here's the rule book. It's very well written, easy to get through and learn the game. Let me read the designer note on this, because I think it's very interesting. Designer notes. Here we go. The expedition in this game is modeled after one of the most famous lost expeditions of all time. Percy Fawcett's final attempt to find El Dorado, which he just called Z. He took his son Jack and his son's friend Raleigh Rimmel, never to return again. Like Amelia Earhart's vanishing, this was quite a hot topic in the 1930s. David Grann's brilliant book, The Lost City of Z, inspired me to design this game. It was soon clear to me that I wanted to design a cooperative game that mirrored what expeditions in the Brazilian jungle might encounter. It features many more calamities, of course, but one important point was to only feature creatures and events which are real. There are no dangers in this game that were impossible for Fawcett to encounter. The local tribes were another important point for me. All tribes mentioned in the game are from the area that Fawcett visited. If possible, I used the original sources to depict them as either more aggressive or friendlier towards outsiders. This should not be misunderstood as a judgment on my part. It's important to show respect towards the tribes, especially in a game about invading their territory. Fawcett was known to have always shown respect for natives, and I hope the game reflects his attitude. During the research for the game, I also learned that you can burn away a hookworm using gunpowder. Who says gaming is not educational? Have fun, Sylvester. I thought that was a great note to add in the game because it really gives you a feel. I think this game is very thematic. In the solo game is a little tougher than the cooperative game. He says in the instructions here that that's on purpose because solo players tend to, I don't know, like more of a challenge. I mean, this game is hard to beat. You are basically lining up cards, 7 or up to 9, and you got your little meeple, and you're trying to get this little guy, this little meeple here across the 7 cards or 9 cards to reach El Dorado, and it's very hard to do because of these things here. Look at this. This is a steep path. Now, the red part here, when there's a red banner or red options, you have to choose one of the two, either the top one or the bottom one. This one here, for instance, means you lose 2 food, you skip a card, and you get to move up 1 card towards El Dorado. The next one says you lose a food, but you gain an expertise. Now, let me get back to these cards in just a second. Here, let me introduce you to the explorers that are available in the game. Isabel, and see the expertise up on top. You'll be using 3 of these in the game for each game. So Isabel, you got Inez. There's a different expertise. You're supposed to choose 3 of these explorers, one with each different expertise. You got Bessie, and there's the other expertise there. And now you got the guys, Roy, you have Candido, and you have Teddy. And you have a little card like this, which is a player aid, and it tells you what some of the symbols mean on the cards that will be showing up And you'll get, if you're playing the cooperative game, each character will have 4 health if you're playing the cooperative game, 3 health if you're playing the solo game, for each of the explorers. And you only get, again, 3 explorers per adventure. Food, which you will have to use depending on what cards come up. And also, you have 2 parts. You have daytime and nighttime, and you have a little token. So when you're playing daytime, that's fine. When you switch to nighttime, you have to spend a food, and when you switch from nighttime to daytime, you spend another food. Food is very hard to come by in this game. This game, again, is very hard to beat. It's very, very challenging. And ammunition, which you get 3 ammunition, I think, in the solo, and 4 in the cooperative. Now, of course, I would take 500 ammunition to a adventure like that. But, you know, if Pierre Sylvester had added 500 ammunition, it wouldn't be much of a challenging game. Let's look at some more of these cards. But basically, like I said, you're lining up 7 or 9 cards. They're land cards. And you begin at one end of these cards, and you're trying to get across all the way to El Dorado. Very difficult. Card like this, here we go. Electric Eels. The yellow, you always have to do the yellow. You have no choice but to do the yellow, and this means you lose a health. So you pick which of your adventurers is going to lose a health. Okay? The blue one is optional. You can decide to use it or not. In this case, you would lose a health to gain 2 food. Okay? So thematically, it works. You know, you kill the eel, and I guess you eat it, right? But you might hurt yourself in the process, so you lose a health. Here's another one. Well, I showed you the steep path. The anaconda. Now, again, with the red, you have to choose one of these, and you have to do one of these, right? So this one here, if it explains here on the player aid that if it's darkened, that means you have to you receive it. If it's if it's clear, then that means you gain it if it's darkened, and you spend it if it's clear. So in this case, you would spend a bullet to gain a food. So you would kill the anaconda and I guess eat it. Or you would spend ammunition and gain expertise. And let's see which, for instance, Candido here has that expertise. It'll come up sometimes where you have to use expertise. And in this case, for instance, let's say you chose this one. You spent a bullet and gained an expertise. You would actually keep this card. You wouldn't discard it. Usually you would discard the cards, but in this case you would keep the card, and you would keep it here next to a Candido. So next time that there was a card that required spending this type of expertise, you would just get rid of this card. Otherwise you have to get rid of health. So let's look at a couple more cards here. Let's see, you have the Rapids. Again, the red, you have to choose one of the 2 there, and this is optional. So you can lose an expertise to switch the position of cards, right? Which could be valuable because during the daytime, you put out a number of these cards in a certain way, right? And in nighttime, you do it in a different way. But basically, you're going to have 6 of these cards out like this, and you have to begin from left and start dealing with them. So a card like this, for instance, will give you the option of switching the position. You know, maybe it was set up like this, and you thought it would be easier if you handle it this way instead. Then you would switch the position of these cards. But anyway, that's optional. And those one of those you have to do. So yeah, now you got thick fog here. If it's yellow up on top, that means you have to do it. You have to do yellow. Anyway, really a wonderful game. There's the cover there. There's a player aid on the back of the. Here's a note on the explorers. Right. Let me read you that note. I love this game. It's great. While all characters and events depicted in this game are entirely fictional, they are inspired by historical people and events. If you're interested in science and adventure, at the turn of the last century, we encourage you to find out more about them. And there you go. So, great game. Sylvester knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. It's a game I really enjoy playing solo, though it's, it's when I'm in the mood to get beat up, because it's not an easy game to win. It's very hard to win. And I love it. And there it is. Let me show you the cover again. The Lost Expedition. Great.